waiting for? It says we're live, waiting for sending data to go to green on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook. Just give it a second here. We got 3 greens, and we're waiting for YouTube to come on board. And no, I don't have a fancy countdown clock, and we are streaming. So let's play the music, and we're going to rock a little bit here. Here we go. Can you hear it, Mark?
No.
You can't hear it?
So you want to be
There we go. There we go. Okay, now I got it.
Want to be a cool kid? Hanging with the insect. Come on, dance with me. Looking real. Oh, there he goes. Cool and fine. He looks fine. Casting your net. Here we go. Wait for the drum roll. Ah. Bop, 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 bop. There we go. There we go. Let's fade that music down. There we go. I'm not a lonely girl today. I'm Bonnie D, and I'm here with my new guest, another cool dude. I think he's cool dude number 34. I hope that's a lucky number. It's Marc W. Mark is spelled with a C, not a K, and W stands for Watson. And we won't mention that too often. Mark, how are you and welcome? What's new with you?
Thank you very much, Bonnie. I appreciate you having me here. I'm doing fantastic, and I am looking forward to having this conversation with you. This will be
Well,
a
we're
lot of
going to
fun.
have a fun conversation, music and entertainment and food and coffee and all kinds of things and wacky stories. And I've got a little gift for you, and you know what it is. So let me read the intro, and everybody just pay attention. Let me refresh. My encoder likes to freeze. That's what happens, and we're going to get that going again. We're still streaming, and no problem. So here we go. There we are. Okay, good. Okay, here we go. You may know us well, Bonnie D and Marc W. Watson, too. Seasoned in life, we love what we do. From social channels, virtual embrace, we love sharing insights in this special space. Now here on We Dish, we're here to play, lightening up life in our uniquely fresh way. The story of Marc W., a cool dude to his core. Bonnie D welcomes Marc, and he's sure to tell us more. Here we go. From Brampton to BC and back again, Marc W.'s early roots spanned hill and glen. A ghost in school, yet passing through, sparked stories and stories that quietly grew. Marc's mom, his hero, strong and wise, raised him solo with sacrifice. Through trials she stood proud and tall, her grit and her grace still say it all. In high school's halls, Marc's pen took flight. Worlds were born in quiet night. With Reusian tales, he'd pave his lane, just writing joy, not chasing fame. At 18, westward Marc did roam, landing in Calgary, a brand new home. Outdoors called, Marc, Marc. He sold the gear, hiked through life with his purpose clear. Marc then met his love, their bond was true. Shared alt-rock tunes and a punky view. Soon came kids, their joy ran deep. Then job loss shook his family sleep. A cubicle nook became Marc's den. His Catching Hell book took shape by pen. He wrote at lunch day after day, then 4 years more to shape the clay. With 5 books now and more stories spun, Marc's journey's enigmatic and full of fun. He mocks the myths of the writer's grind. His pace is free form, self-defined. No daily word counts trap his muse. Marc writes when he's ready, where and when he'll choose. No dreams of full-time writing fame, just life and words, and love are Marc's aim. He's bold, he's brawled, he's played 5-pin, a martial artist with a real deal grin. You start grinning now, Marc. But baseball's now his favorite game. He plays, he umps, he's earned his fame. Marc lets his quirks and honesty show with humor sharp and nerves in tow. A real cool dude with tales to share. He brings his style and his special flair. So grab your snacks and sip your tea. This cool dude's dishing wild and free. Bonnie D's Scarlet Mike is in play. Let's stir the sauce. It's Marc W.'s day. What'd you think?
I love it. I love it. That was just fantastic. Thank you
I'm
so much
glad.
for
And
that.
let me finish this. So we're here on We Dish, chatting on life score, culture, muse, food, and oh, so much more. Join us live or on demand, day or night. That's what on demand's for. We're going to sleep. And enjoy our dishing with shared delight. Meet us for real in our live streaming glow. Glow, glow. Comments are welcome. Just play nice. We know who you are, you know. We know. We dish two Saucy Dame and Cool Dude two, Bonnie D and Mark W dishing a life's fun pour vu. So how'd I do?
I think you did fantastic. That was absolutely wonderful, and I thank you for it.
I say you're welcome for it. And my partner in crime, Sylvie, says she is very happy that you're happy. So there you go. She's telling me in my other ear. So here we go. It's May. Is it really May 2nd already? I don't know where the
It
year is
is.
going.
It
Is it?
is. Where is it going?
Is
Oh
it
my
flying?
goodness.
You know what?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Let's fill in the blanks. Mark, what do you write? How often do you write? What are your five books about? Let's do a little one-on-one here. Tell me about more about your writing. What's
I
your
would love to.
genre? Please.
I would love to. I'm primarily fantasy and science fiction, usually kind of more anchored in the fantasy side of things. So I do have five books. The first two are my Death series. They're urban fantasy or kind of modern fantasy dark comedies, kind of inspired by like the comedy of Douglas Adams and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but with that dark kind of fantasy bent of like Chuck Palahniuk who did Fight Club or before it was a dirty word, I have to admit there's more than a little Neil Gaiman in there. And then my other series is my Catching Hell series. That is a pure epic science fantasy duology. It's very much robots and lasers and futuristic technology meets uh, dragons and magic and phoenixes and the world of the fantastical. And that is the just the duology, just the two books. And then the last book is a short story collection that takes place in the same world, and it's all told chronologically and all for the most part in different genres because I wanted to try and write different genres, but I didn't want to write a whole book in them, so I didn't know if I could write in some of these ones. So I figured writing a short story and then putting it together in one of those is probably the best way to go about it. So that is my five books. As for when I write whenever I want to write, Bonnie. I write sometimes I cannot be stopped and my fingers just fly.
Mhm.
And sometimes I can go for years and barely write anything. I very much enjoy writing at my own pace, not being told when and where I have to. I very rarely have deadlines just by the nature of my work. So
Really?
yeah, I take it nice and smooth. I like to say, and I stand by this, if it
Mhm.
all ended tomorrow, I would be immensely proud of myself and I would walk away with absolutely no regrets. Hopefully it doesn't. I still enjoy doing what I'm doing, but if that's the way it goes, then I'd be ready for it because this is a serious hobby that I love to death and I
Mm.
would love to continue to the end of my life, but I don't want it to be my life. I think that sums
Interesting.
it up pretty succinctly.
That's a very, I'm going to say it, a very unique point of view. We don't hear that too often. It's huge.
Hmm.
I attend some writers' conferences. I'm still working on my first novel. I think it's going to get there soon, and you know why. We'll keep that between us. But yes, I'm doing it. But on these, everybody who presents at these writers' conferences, Mark, are basically selling their services. I can edit,
Hmm.
and I'm getting newsletters from them, sometimes five a week, sometimes one a week. And it's, are you stuck? Are you at that point where you've got writer's block? I'll tell you five different ways. And they do webinars and they get everybody, I'm not mocking, they get live webinars where they ask the attendees for their input and what they want to do. And it's like a big round table. It's a big party. I'm not, I don't appeal to me very much, but I write when I want to. I write when I feel like it. Some days I'm just wow. And other days it's like there's a magnet pushing me away from my novel.
Hmm.
And I call it the novel. And I have a folder and I keep track of which month I'm working on it and how many updates. And I give the date and a letter 1A, 2A, 2B, C3, whatever. And I just keep track. But Mark, it's when I want to and when this is going to sound spooky, but you do sci-fi, so you understand. It's when it lets me. It's
Hmm.
when the story lets me. Now,
Yes.
quick flashback to years ago, I wanted to write a romantic comedy play. And I was working full-time job, marketing director somewhere in New York, and I downloaded at 1 o'clock one morning, I downloaded Playwriting 101. And it was a Word document. And it said, this is the font, this is the spacing, this is the lettering between lines. You start out with a scene, and then you describe your characters, and then you do the opening curtain, and then you fill in the action and which act of it and how many acts, and you script the whole thing. I
Mhm.
wrote the next 3 nights from 1 in the morning till 4 in the morning, and I finished the first play.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Is
They talk to me. Do your characters talk to you?
100% they talk to me
There you go.
as a pure dyed in the wool pantser, not a plotter in any way, shape,
Yep.
or form. I think that comes across pretty clearly.
Hello. Yeah.
I rely on my characters talking to me to
Yes.
tell me where it is they need to go. I have the points that I need to hit, and I know that this is important for the plot, and I know where the ending is, and I
Yep.
have the idea of who the character is that helps guide them.
Mm-hmm.
But I cannot tell you, Bonnie, the number of times that I have been writing something and I'm like, oh, well, that's surprising. Well, that's good. Well, let's see where this goes. And sometimes it goes someplace great, and sometimes I don't really
Yeah.
like it. But 9 times out of 10, I can absolutely make it work. And when I get surprised by it, it's one of the most satisfying feelings as a writer. Be like,
Is
oh,
it?
I just
Yeah.
surprised. I didn't know I was that good. Oh, look at that.
I had a moment like that, but I was producing and hosting a couple of TV shows on Access TV on Long Island at the time, and I knew friends who were had friends who were in community theater, and they were doing a couple of plays a year. There were groups of them. I knew people who knew people, and I appealed to a couple of them. I said, "How would you like to act out my play?" And they said, "Well, we're real busy, but we don't want to have to memorize anything." I said, "No problem. I'll put a couple of monitors in front of you. Camera won't see them, and we'll just have it rolling in, and you can just read your lines without sitting and doing this. If you can be very actorally about it without having to pretend that you're reading, I'd be happy to give you the script. You'll learn it, but you won't have to memorize it." They said,
Mm,
"We're on." I had too many people for one, so I did two versions of the same play with a slightly different twisted ending. One actor, the actress was in her own brunette hair in the first one, and then she put on a blonde wig for the second one. And I became not only the director, but the coach. I became the as how to say this, the persona creator with the
mhm,
actors. I became the one who coached their voice, their attitude, their mannerisms. They were actors and actresses, but I became that person. Mark, I'd never done anything like that in my life.
mm.
It was exciting. I had rehearsals and then we went to the studio. We recorded two of them. It took place in a taxi cab. I bought a child's steering wheel, a plastic one. We put it on the table. They were in a green screen studio, a big green curtain behind them, sitting in chairs. That was it, with a monitor on a table that we couldn't see. And my director at the time went to New York. He was in the city often. And he did a video of the noises of the city outside the moonroof of his car. And he did the background of cabs. It was took place and started in front of Penn Station. He took video of rush hour in front of Penn Station where I commuted for years. So we had all of these and we streamed them in, and you couldn't tell that these people weren't standing in front of Penn Station. And then
Wow.
they climbed in the cab. I downloaded a picture of a van and we made it so that the door opened and they sat down on the chairs in an empty studio and they were in this van cab. It was wonder. I'll send you the link if you'd like to see it.
I'd
But
love to see that. Yeah,
they talked to
I'm
me.
it's from high school. I'm a theater student. That's what I focused on throughout my years of high school. And I can think of a number of productions we did nowhere near that elaborate, but just like here's some chairs and here's something that we picked
Yep.
up from somewhere. And I remember very clearly there was one we had to go next door to the auto shop because that's where the drama room was.
Hmm.
And we got like car parts in order to build a car
There you go.
for a particular scene. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I moved to North Carolina and I decided to host something called a cold reading salon. And 25 people came just as something to do in the community. And I printed out Roald Dahl and other people who wrote dialogues and scenes, all free stuff from the internet. I didn't take anything that was not allowed to be copied. I printed them out. I threw them on a table and I said, "Okay, everybody come up." And these are marked monologue, dialogue, group. And pick something that appeals to you. Just take something off the table, all printed. I used a lot of printer ink that week and stapled them together. I said, pick something you like. And they did. And I said, I'm giving you 5 minutes to quickly review the script you've picked. And then I want one person to raise their hand and say they're ready. You're going to come up in front of the group. No judgment, no recording, no video, nothing. And I want you to do your best to interpret what you've picked. Cold reading salon. And they did. Well, Mark, one of the scripts I put on the table was from this play called Hail, Hail, my play. It was a short scene with the two characters. So it was a two-person read. And two people came up and did it, and I'm listening. I'm laughing hysterically. I am hysterical. And I said, oh my God, where'd that come from? And then bingo, light bulb. I wrote that. It was out of context because it wasn't in the play, but I'm
Mhm.
saying, shit, I mean, damn, that's really, really interesting. It's so funny. It's fine.
It's great when you can surprise yourself with those kinds of things, right? Like,
It
well,
was wonderful.
when I read that my death series that I mentioned, like I said, they're dark comedies, right?
Hmm.
So the second word of that is comedy. So when I'm reading it, I still want to be able to end like laugh
Yep.
and be like, oh man, that was really clever when I wrote
Yeah.
that line right there. Like if I
Wasn't
can,
I though? Wasn't
yeah,
I
oh
though?
absolutely. You can
Mhm.
abs 100% pat yourself on the back when you're like,
Why
yeah,
not?
I nailed that one. That one's pretty funny. Yeah.
That's fun. And that way you don't need accolades from other people. You don't need to, well, it's nice to win awards if you're
Well,
selling
so,
books, but it's nice to say, I did a good job. And
yeah.
people say good job. And at a point in time when you're being really creative, I like to say it wasn't a job. It was just something I did. Good
Yeah.
job. What I wasn't a job. I wasn't getting paid for it. I
No,
wasn't hired for it.
no,
What? It's
oh
not a
no.
job. Good job. Well, they mean well, like break a leg and all that stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for
Anyway,
sure.
I'm enjoying this very, very much.
Yeah.
Where do the muses, the inspirations come from? You said dark. Some of your books are dark. Where
They
does this
are
come
dark.
from?
They are dark.
Where?
They deal with some dark topics. Particularly with the death series that I've got, I've said this before, and I've kind of said it a lot lately because it's been more relevant this year than I think it has in a lot of years of my life. I say that death and I are old friends. And
Mm,
I say that because
mm.
in the times that I've had to deal with it in my life, yeah, I'm not going to say I've become comfortable. It's just an aspect of my life that I accept. I'm at a point in my life where I have to accept that kind of thing. But my personal personality and the things that I've been through in my life and the way that I've dealt with things will not allow me to face something dark like that without snark and sarcasm. And I've said this a few times and I'll say it again. I've never been to a funeral I can't tell a joke at, right? Like I'll be as respectful as I can, but there's times where people need to laugh. I love gallows humor. I love dark humor. I
Wow.
love I love trying to deal with these dark aspects of life that are completely unavoidable. We will all go through them and we have no choice in that matter. I love dealing with those things with kind of a wry smile. Like
Mm-hmm.
I cannot control this. Why on earth am I going to let it bring me down? And that's where a lot of it comes from. So I can talk about the muses and where a lot of the creativity for like the epic fantasies and all the rest of that go, but there's always that underlying dark humor in my life, right? Like something bad happens, what on earth can I do about it? I have no control over this situation. I will not let it get me down. And that's where a lot of it comes from.
I'm fascinated. I was a host on WGBB Radio, AM 1240 in New York, a Friday night drive time host. They also gave me a Thursday show to share with somebody else years ago. This was real terrestrial radio, the oldest AM station on Long Island. And I'm not going to tell too many details, but I'll tell you that there was a gentleman who listened to all my shows. I was drive time Friday just for an hour, 6 to 7 p.m., I think. And he was a blind gentleman from Queens, New York, which wasn't that far from where we were broadcasting on South Shore of Long Island. I think we were in Merrick. And we came up with this concept that I would ask my engineer. He would say, I would say, what is Bonnie wearing today? And the engineer named Tom would look through the glass window in the booth and he would make up a story. She's wearing a light blue spaghetti strap dress with very high patent leather heels and black fishnet stockings, and she's got beautiful ocean blue eyes and bee stung red lips. And he would, and I had no relationship with this man. He was just making this stuff up. And he'd come on, the God mic from the control room. So
Mhm.
eventually, one day, I met this gentleman from Queens. His wife drove him out to the studio, and I met him. And I was wearing velvet shoes that day. And of course, he couldn't see. He was very, very legally blind. I don't think he could see much other than shadows. I'm trying to remember his name. And with his wife's permission, I put my foot up on his lap so he could feel the shoes.
Mhm.
This was nothing awful about it. Well, he passed away 6 months later. He used to call into all the sports shows on Long Island, by the way. Everybody knew him. Everybody knew him. And I was invited to his funeral, which was at a very small funeral parlor, a Jewish funeral in Queens, New York. And I went with a friend, and they said, "Does anybody have anything to say?" And I said yes. And I went up to the front, and I told the story of what is Bonnie wearing and him sitting there and me and his wife was there and she okayed it, putting my foot on his lap and his touching the shoes and saying she's wearing beautiful velvet shoes today. And there wasn't a dry eye and it wasn't crying for his death. It was laughing at his sense of humor. And
Hmm.
I brought that to a funeral. I don't go to a lot of funerals because I cry a lot, you can see. But you reminded me that I think I brought, and I sat down and people wanted to clap. They didn't dare. Oh, who's the comedian up front of the, I can't remember his name, Ben or Mark or so. I can't remember his name. Anyway, I don't know, you brought back that memory. Isn't that interesting? How the bits and pieces of our lives come.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's an important one, right? Like I understand completely that some people just have no tolerance for that whatsoever. And
Yeah,
I respect that as much as I possibly can. But I have found for the number of times I've been to one or spoken to somebody about it, for the most part, people are pretty accepting of that kind of thing. And a lot of them are even looking for that kind of thing. It can be such a dark and dour experience, and
yeah.
not that it doesn't deserve to be, but
Find the light.
I haven't met anybody who was just this is just the most sour person and didn't enjoy telling a joke and didn't enjoy humor and didn't enjoy the light. I've never met that person. I'm sure they're out there and I don't want to meet them.
Shall
The
I
people
put
that I
you on
met,
the list of my funeral? I'm
like
sorry.
I remember I was asked to speak at my grandmother's funeral
Mhm.
and perform a eulogy there at the service. And I know that for the most part, those are usually, well, here's a quick recounting of the person's life, and then they met this person and they fell in love, and I did
Mhm.
that to the for the most part, but I spent most of the time just telling a story that led to a punchline at the end, and nobody really
Yeah.
knew that there was going to be a punchline at the end. And then when I delivered, and like everybody's sitting there and they're very solemn, and it's very good, and I'm telling the story and recounting how I was talking to my kids about how my grandmother, their great grandmother, had
Mhm.
died. And then I told the punchline, and then everybody, there was silence in the room for a moment. And then it was just like everybody kind of realized the joke was happening. And it's like, oh, okay, that is funny. So it's like 3 or 4 seconds of silence. And then I just let
Yeah.
it breathe for a moment. And then everybody just laughed. And then that lightens the mood. And then you can start
Yes.
talking about all the great things
Yes.
about that person's life, right? Like it's
Because you did it with love. You did
I'm
it with love.
always
And
with love, always with love.
one of those rules in comedy, I did stand up for several years as a side hobby, not a job, but a side hobby. And all over New York and Long Island, I had my own troupe, Bonnie G and Du Bois, Gaboyz. It was kind of fun. We did libraries, Borders, bookstores until they kicked us out. And no, we weren't dirty, but we ran into, yeah, too many people came for our comedy show one day. 250 people showed up, and they didn't buy coffee and cake, and the
Mm,
manager of the cafe was mad, so she threw us out. Anyway, just very interesting bringing that light and the love of the person is what you're doing, I assume, with your jokes.
yes.
You're bringing love in a respectful way, but in a different tone, and that's what's so important. I'm going to put you in my list of things I want at my funeral, and you'll have to fly to New York. They're burying me somewhere up there. Okay, let's move on. This was fascinating. So
Yeah.
I want to know, Mr. Cool Dude of the Day. I'm sorry you're only number 33 or 34. I've lost count.
34. 34.
34. Okay.
According to what you said, that's an
Yeah,
important
30,
number to me.
34.
So 34.
I'm very, very happy. So, do you have a couple of cool dude songs you'd like to tell us about, Mark? Go ahead.
I do. I do. I put a list together. Some of them are somewhat popular,
Okay.
kind of, at least for my particular generation and my music, but none of them are like Billboard charting hits.
Doesn't have to
That's
be.
no, that's what it is.
They're
And
on your billboard.
they are on my Billboard.
There you go.
And this is an excellent segue, Bonnie, because talking about death, I personally have a music playlist on my YouTube music channel that is called Always Leave Them Crying, and it is my songs to be played at my funeral. And the most recent addition to this is
I
from
have to go. Okay, now you can finish talking. Go ahead.
I put a recent addition to this a few months ago because it's very important the songs that I choose to put into this list, right? And I am a gigantic nerd. I don't know if this has come across or not, but I am a huge nerd and I love nerdy things. And one thing that I really like is the Netflix League of Legends TV show Arcane.
Okay.
And on Arcane season two, which just aired a few months ago, there's a character, Heimerdinger, who is voice acted by an excellent voice actor named Mitch Wingart, and he has a song that he performs. And as the song is being performed, there's a montage going on in the background of the suffering of some of the characters that's going on. But the song is called "Spin the Wheel," and it's played with almost like a banjo style song. It very much reminded me almost of like Rainbow Connection, like by Kermit the
Da
Frog
da da
from
da
the Muppet
da. The
movie.
Rainbow
Yeah,
Connection. Yep.
yeah, just like that smooth kind of banjo sound, which is not my sound at all. But when I recognize something really good, then that I pick up on that. And going back to what I was talking about, the things that we cannot control, it's a song about things that we cannot control. Like the first line is "Go spin the wheel and see where it lands,"
Mm.
and that's what life is, right? Like we have control of some things and we don't have control of pretty much everything else. And how we deal with those kinds of things and treating it as an adventure as opposed to treating it as a burden. And I was I was very much watching that show on my own. I later went on to watch it another time with my wife. And I'm sitting where I'm sitting right now. I have my computer here and I've got screens and I've got all the rest of the stuff. And I had my headphones on just like I do right now. And I sat down and this moment came up and I was in tears by the end of it. It just hit. And I was at just a point in my life where I was like, I needed this. I needed to hear this song in my life right now.
Mm.
And credit to the writers, credit to the voice actor who's not a traditional singer. He's just a voice actor on this show who ended up singing this song. And it hit and I'm like that goes on the list. That goes right into my always leave them crying songs to play at my
Mm.
funeral list.
Mm.
So so yeah, that was the first one that I thought of as soon as you said
Okay.
like that defines me as a person. Um, but then we go in a completely different direction for the next
Okay.
one. And when I was younger, as you mentioned in your excellent introduction, that I have a history of martial arts, and I do, and part of that is competitive martial arts. But I also have a love of professional wrestling and showmanship, and the stories that got told there. And I love a good entrance. And for the longest time, when I would do these kinds of competitive things, there was a song that would I would have as the introduction, and the song was "Who Was in My Room Last Night," the Nine Inch Nails remix by alternative 80s darlings, the Butthole Surfers. And
That's a first on my show. Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Nail it.
so
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
they they did have a couple other hits that did get charted in some rock charts. But this particular song, it was never very popular, and it was when Nine Inch Nails was first coming up before they ever became popular. And it's a slow build intro and then there's just heavy drums and it just kicks into things
Mm.
amazingly. And it just no matter when I hear it, even if I didn't use it as quote unquote intro music, sometimes it was just playing in my headphones because wherever I was didn't have a PA system or something.
Mhm.
It is I walk into a whole new world as soon as I hear that song. If I'm out walking the dog and it comes on my playlist, I'm just like I'm there again. I'm opening it up and there's a raucous crowd of 20 people and it's just a pump up song for me and it's not a very common pump up song. It's got to be the Nine Inch
Yep.
Nails remix. The regular version's okay, but then there's something a little dark about that remix and I love it.
Okay. What's your other one? Third? We got five. Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, I've got five. So again, I'm a huge nerd and
Mhm.
I watch a TV show called The Orville and because it's very much reminds me of Star Trek: The Next Generation, which I grew up watching and I think is a wonderful show. And it's very much a wonderful kind of homage, pastiche to The Next Generation. And in one episode, their version of the holodeck, there's a character played by actress Leighton Meester who
Mhm.
uh, she sings the song "Any Way I Love You," which is actually from another nerdy thing that I love very much. It's a cover of a song from the soundtrack of The Last Unicorn, the animated movie from the 1980s. And I grew up watching The Last Unicorn. It was one of the things that really got me into Japanese animation. It's beautiful storytelling. The original version of the song, which I believe is by the band America, is not that great. It's not that memorable. I like the lyrics of it, but it's not something that really resonates with me. But when Lichtmeester's character plays it in the show, she's playing it just on a single acoustic guitar, and she is playing it in a coffee shop, and she slows it down, and there's lines in it like, "I would like to write a book about the way you act and look, but I haven't got a paragraph. Words are always getting in my way.
Oh,
Anyway, I love you."
oh,
Like it's a
oh,
bunch of
oh.
things like that, like creativity. Like I would love to tell you how I feel about you, but even though I'm creative, even though I possess these abilities, I feel it so much that I cannot put it into words.
What a
And
line. What a line. My good.
it
I
just,
have to find it.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. There's a video of it on YouTube just of the performance, and there's other lines like that equating itself to other aspects of art, but saying, "Anyway, I love you. That's all I've got to tell you. That's all I've got to say." Simplicity in the words
Mm,
just makes me feel something. So it reminds me of watching The Last Unicorn and enjoying it when I was a kid, but it also talks about my life right now, and
mm.
it can refer to my wife, it can refer to either one of my sons, it can refer to my mom, my friends, just I don't know. I'm known for being incredibly verbose, and just a song
No.
that's just like, yeah, right, right.
No.
But
I
just a
enjoy
song that's like,
listening to you. Go ahead.
but a song that just kind of cuts it down and is like, I could do all of these things, but I simply do not possess the skills to tell you how much I love you. And
Beautiful. Beautiful
that hits
thought.
me.
Next song?
Next song is another new one, and it's about more so about the bond with my kids. And as again you mentioned, I still play baseball. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45 years old, and I still play in a men's league, and I play baseball. I don't play slow pitch or anything like that. We're just a bunch of guys who want to continue to relive our youth. And we had an excellent year last year. And one of my favorite artists, because you might not be able to tell right now, but I was born and raised on hip hop. I was born and raised on rap and hip hop, and I listen to a lot of it. And probably my favorite current artist right now is a guy named Logic. And Logic releases a lot of really nerdy stuff. And last year he also wrote a science fiction book. So, and then he released an album that ties to the science fiction book. And he loves a lot of the anime that I grew up loving. And he comes from the same kind of influences that I come from. He just channeled it into being a really good hip hop artist. And he has a song on his newest album, Ultra 85, that's called Mission Control. And I remember I was driving to the Ball Diamond. Again, we were having a great year. We're pushing for first place. We're in the playoffs, and Mission Control comes on. And it was just like Who Was in My Room Last Night when I was younger. It was just it starts with a kind of like a heavy piano sound, and then it just launches into a heavy beat. And I'm like, I can take on the world. And then we went out there and we win. And then every
Mm-hmm.
single game leading up to that point, I would roll up to the diamond. I'm blasting the song Mission Control by Logic. But how it ties to my kids is that Logic is the first artist that I really like that especially my oldest son also really likes. So we can
Mm-hmm.
bond over that music. Logic is kind of, he's younger than me, but older than my son. So he kind of falls in between. And here in Calgary, of course, we have the Calgary Stampede. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that the Calgary Stampede that they have every year is called the Coca-Cola stage. And the
Mm-hmm.
Coca-Cola stage is they bring in famous artists of all different kinds of music and genres, and they play free concerts. If you get a
Mm.
ticket to go into the Stampede, you get to go to the Coke stage. It's usually pretty
Nice.
crowded and it's pretty rowdy. But last year, Logic is one of the people who's performing at the Coke stage. And so I take my kids and we go, and this is their first real heavy duty concert experience where like you got to fight your way through the crowd and you're fighting to see
Mm-hmm.
the artist that you want to see. And it was just, it reminded me of a great bonding moment with them. And then they played Mission Control, and I loved watching it loud or live. And it's just a song that has a lot of meaning for me in the current moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that
Nice.
one. And then my last one is slowing it down a little bit more and taking me back to kind of the 1990s again. And that is the song Glory Box by Portishead. So, Portishead is a trip hop band, so kind of a combination of hip hop and dance music, but played at a very kind of jazz speed. And there's a few other popular artists like that who um, like Massive Attack and Tricky. But when I was writing, I never liked listening to things. I've since changed, but I would just like listening to the random pink noise that was going on around me. It's when I'm writing and being creative. But the moment I started editing something, I needed something energizing, but not like firing me up. And for some reason, uh, the the album that this comes off of by the band Portishead is absolute catnip to me when I'm editing. And I have other like trip hop stuff in there. Glory Box is the last song on it, and it's very much like it's very slow. It comes in really slow. The vocals are very, very, very calm, but still powerful. And then when it eventually starts to kind of fade out at the end, I usually take that moment to like take a break and take a breath because I have been editing and I have been like cutting, and there's usually stress and is this going to be good or am I using the right word here and whatever. So really it's just a representation of that moment in my creative life where I don't really listen to music when I'm being creative, but the moment I have to start hacking and slashing, trip hop, Portishead,
Hmm.
Glory Box. It's just such a it's a chill song, but it's also a song that I can really get things done to. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Interesting. You've introduced me to so many new venues, new songs, new writers. Can you define nerdy for me? Because I consider myself more of a geek nerd because I'm a tech person from way back.
Yeah.
But what's nerdy to you? Just briefly.
I believe that nerdiness is what it is that influences you and the things that you attach yourself to. Like, I believe that you could be a nerd about sports. Like, I've met a lot of people who have, yeah, they like sports, they like watching it. And then I meet other people who are in like football pools and they're
Hmm.
out there and they're putting numbers together that the best advanced Dungeons and Dragons players would be put to shame with, right? Like, they've got charts and they've got numbers and or you're looking at baseball and you like taking a look at the numbers and the sabermetrics and the Moneyball system and you really like to dive into those kinds of things. For me, it's more about the traditional nerdy things. I grew up on cartoons and anime.
Okay.
I grew up on science fiction and fantasy. Like I said, I love Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I love all of my favorite movies are usually, with the exception of one, they are fantasy or science fiction movies, and
Okay.
those were just what my influences were at the time. So it's a lot of the popular culture that you would consume at a comic expo, just like the one I was just at this last
Hmm.
weekend, where there's people in costumes playing as their favorite characters, and there's
Nerds.
people like me selling those books, and
Nerd.
there's yeah, there's people who love drawing little caricatures of people or original art of existing characters, like all these things that we love to embrace and like Adam Savage from Mythbusters is there, and he's about the biggest nerd around that I can name. Like,
Okay.
yeah, just
I haven't heard the word in a while, and I call myself a geek, but I looked it up just for the heck of it. I haven't seen, as I said, I haven't heard the word. A nerd is a person who is extremely enthusiastic and knowledgeable about a particular subject, especially one of specialist or niche interest.
mhm.
And then to nerd is apparently it's a verb. Engage in or discuss a technical field obsessively or with great attention to detail. It also is a person who is overly intellectual, obsessive, introverted, and lacking social skills. That's
Introverted, Bonnie. Introverted.
they may
Introverted.
spend inordinate amounts of time on unpopular, little known, or non mainstream. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to kill that. Isn't that interesting? Well,
Mm.
I'm a geek because I'm a tech nerd. So there you go. There you go. We'll just
Yeah,
leave it at that. Would you like to hear my songs?
I would absolutely fire away. I'm looking
Okay,
forward to
well,
it.
I have a whole bunch of mine are more anthem songs that are about my life rather than influencing my life. So, one of my favorites is from 1971. I don't know if you were born then. Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin. And the
Mhm.
key line there, you will like this, is freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Think about that, Mark. What a wonderful line. And then Leslie Gore's "You Don't Own Me," which has been my mantra for many, many years in relationships. And Helen Reddy's "I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar." That's
Hmm.
another one. Pat Benatar, "Hit Me With Your Best Shot." Aretha Franklin, "Respect," Respect. Gloria
Hmm.
Gaynor, "I Will Survive." Patti LaBelle, "New Attitude." I like that one a lot.
Hmm. Hmm.
And Bill Medley from Dirty Dancing, "I've Had the Time of My Life." I'm still having it. And then Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper. Groovin' by the Young Rascals. Okay.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I used to teach dancing, ballroom and disco, couples dancing and line dancing. And Donna Summer, who unfortunately passed away years ago, was one of my favorites. I've danced to her songs in some contests, dance contest I was in. And I looked at her discography, Mark, and the lines of my life are matched by many of the titles of her songs. So I have "She Works
Hmm.
Hard for the Money." Then I have "Hot Stuff." I've been called that, but I was never a streetwalker in LA, so don't worry about that. On the radio, I've been doing this for 20 years. "No More Tears," "Enough Is Enough," which was a duet. I think it was Streisand and Summer. "Last Dance," "Last Dance," "Last Chance for Love." That was another one. I dance in the kitchen now. "I Feel Love," which had that synth in the background, Giorgio Moroder, and the Disco Hawaii contest I entered when I was living in Oregon many, many decades ago with my dance partner, Michael. We danced to Heaven Knows Just How Much I Love You" from the MacArthur Park Suite, which was a 26-minute suite, but Heaven Knows was a couple of minutes, and we had to limit the amount of time of the song. We came in from opposite sides of the dance floor. He lifted me. I was about 97 pounds. He lifted me up over his head. It was just right out of Saturday Night Fever. Did the spin over the top, death drop to the floor, spun me around, and I got up on my feet, and then we did our couples dance, and it was, yeah,
Nice.
lot of good memories there. But Heaven Knows was our song, and we had matching outfits: blue satin silk, blue silk tops. He had a fancy shirt his mother sewed for him, and I had a black skirt, and it was a lot of fun. So those are my songs. So I tell you what, now let's go to any of my songs that resonate with you. My nose is itchy. I must be wanting to fight somebody. It's not
I
you. Go ahead.
I I love a lot of the kind of R&B that was coming out of the 60s and 70s. I
Mm-hmm.
I love soul music and things like that. So um a lot there's a lot of genres that you were mentioning that I still listen to a lot of this to this day, and is usually kind of like my go-to, put it on in the background kind of music when I want to listen to something that picks me up, or like when I'm on vacation somewhere. That's the kind of music that I'm usually listening to, is blues and soul
Cool.
and upbeat music from the 60s and 70s.
Cool. Does the name BB King strike a chord with you? Remember
Oh,
BB King?
absolutely. Absolutely. Love BB King. And one of my favorite albums in my 20s, early 20s was Riding with the King, which was the BB King and Eric Clapton
Mm,
album that they
mm.
put together. I mean, you put two talents like that together and you're only going to get good things.
I was a stringer reporter for the Improper magazine on Long Island, and they gave me a free ticket as and a press pass to go to what was the Westbury Music Fair, which was theater in the round, and I was privileged to be in row 14 on the aisle at one of those concerts, and it was BB King, and I saw him live
Oh,
on stage, and it
that would be
was
amazing.
it was amazing. And with my Kodak DX6490 camera with no flash, and it was not a phone, it was a real camera. I was able to take, I don't know what I did my pictures of those. I did my own photography for my articles, and I got into middle of the magazine. Sometimes they put me on the back cover, which was really an honor, or the inside of the back cover. And I did reports for Joan Rivers, Johnny Mathis, Neil Sedaka, B.B. King, Patti LaBelle. It was a very good couple of summers getting to go to these concerts and be there
That
as
would
a
be amazing.
reporter, and it was wonderful. I'll send you some. I have JPEGs of some of my articles.
That'd be
So
great.
we're going to go into OTT, off the top, Fast and Furious, and I
Mhm.
send you a list of and these aren't just questions for you, but I'm going to answer them as well. So let's
Mhm.
start with, what food or beverage powers you, Mark W., at the beginning of your day? Is it a drink? Is it something you eat? What do you start off the day with? Because obviously you got a lot of energy. Being a nerd takes a lot of energy, I know. So what do you start with? Food or drink? What is it?
Just drink. I do not have food in the morning. I have a cup of coffee, the classic Canadian double double. I prefer a dark roast if possible. I love like two cream, two sugar. and I will have that every single morning, and that powers me through until lunchtime because I intermittent fast, so between 8 o'clock at night and 12 o'clock the next day, I'm not eating anything. So I
Interesting.
cheat with that one thing, and uh, for all the vices that I have and all the vices that I've lost, you will never get rid of my cup of coffee in the
It
morning.
looks
It's not
good
going to
on
happen.
you. Do you brew it or do you buy it? Do you do it at home or where do you
Uh,
go?
I am open to any and all. I am happy to go and buy it. I have coffee machines at work that provide it for free. When I'm at home, like today, I've got my own fancy coffee machine that'll put it together. I'm
Mhm.
not someone who's like I can only have my coffee if it's drip roast, and
Oh, excuse
I'm
me.
not
Yeah,
that person.
oh, you're not a coffee nerd.
I'm not. I like a good cup of coffee. I know what I like
Mm.
and I know what I don't. And I'm fine going to Tim Hortons and picking up a coffee. I might not be the best kind of coffee in the world, but it tastes fine, and it reminds me of so many 6 o'clock mornings with at the hockey rink where I'm trying to keep warm or being out on the ball diamond and same thing. So
Wonderful.
yeah, yep,
Thank you.
coffee's my go-to.
Can't do caffeine anymore. Can't get me in the same room with caffeine. I'm just scraping me off the ceiling. It just goes right through me, and I'm ooh, like this. And I don't need that, as you know. I have enough energy. So my drink is 6 or 8 ounces of 1% milk in a small individual serving blender, and a couple of handfuls of frozen sliced strawberries unsweetened, and a squirt of agave raw, which is a sweet substitute. Sometimes I'll cheat and put a spoonful of vanilla ice cream or a little bit more than that, a little bit of dry cocoa powder, unsweetened, and a banana. And I'll pulse that. It's not an on off, it's a pulse, and I'll pulse it, 10, 12 times. And then I'll take the lid off this thing and rinse it in the sink. And then I have reusable straws, the kind you put the pipe cleaner in and clean the
Hmm.
inside and clean the
Hmm.
outside. And yeah, they last a long time if you take care of them. And then I'll drink that here at my desk when I'm working or when I'm sitting in the kitchen at my table. So that's my go-to beverage, and that pretty much does it for the morning. And I like it. And by the
That's
way,
good.
there is a shortage of good quality cocoa right now because of climate interests, impact, shall we say, in Ivory Coast, which is a
Mhm.
country in Africa, and they're the primary. So high level, good quality chocolate is no longer on the shelves in my supermarket here. And a relative of mine knew I needed to have more of that on my shelf, so they bought the last four boxes at Target and had them
That's
shipped
good.
to
That's
me as a
nice.
gift. And I ordered one on Amazon last week, and a $4 box of cocoa cost me $18, even
Hmm.
though the shipping
Hmm.
was free. So yeah,
I
it's going to
believe it.
impact. It's just a climate. It's just a thing that the weather has been very tough on the crops. So we're going to
I've
see
heard that.
high-end chocolate go. Anyway, I got to have my cocoa. Just a couple sprinkles, but it goes. So let's go to our next off the top here. Let's see. Oh my goodness gracious. Something you bought or made for yourself that made you or makes you especially happy, other than your coffee machine.
My wife bought the coffee machine, as a matter
Okay,
of
good.
fact.
So
It
what
wasn't it wasn't me.
what'd you buy for yourself that or make anything you crafted or sewed or drew or
I I cannot make anything. Other than writing when it comes to actually creating anything with my hands, I am all thumbs. But I will say, uh, th as a baseball fan, the first thing that came to my mind was my first custom baseball bat that I made for myself at the start of last season, and I had it done up in the colors of my baseball team, which is the same as uh, the Athletics and Major League Baseball, and I had my own personal motto carved into it, and it was just absolutely perfect, and I love it. And it's sitting beside me right now because in the very last game of the year, championship game of the year, my very last at bat of the season, I broke it. And it is the
oh,
first ever baseball bat that I have broken. And I ran to first base, and all the guys were just like, "Oh, Mark, you broke your custom bat." And I'm like, "I've never broken a bat in my entire life. This is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's
can you
okay." Like
hold
it
it
got,
up? Can you try
yeah,
to show it
absolutely,
to
yeah,
us?
yeah, for sure.
Let's see. It's hard without a green screen, but let's see if you can show it. Green and
So the top
there
is
it is.
green,
Yes,
so
hold it
I'll
right
try
there.
and
Hold it
yeah,
right there.
yeah.
Perfect.
So you can't see the break very well. Maybe if I turn it this way, there's a crack that runs right along here. So
I see
I
it.
swung
I
at
think I
something on
see
the
it.
inside, It ended
Oh,
up being a single that I hit to the shortstop. They couldn't make the play in time, and not to toot my own horn, but I am pretty fast. So I was able to get down there, and yeah, it was just it was a
oh.
hit. It ended up being a run batted in. We ended up losing that game, unfortunately, but it was the most success that I'd ever had in baseball, and I had a lot of success with this bat, and I
And
was
what's the
very proud
mantra?
of it.
What do you have carved into it? You said.
I have, can't see it. Hang on,
There it is. There it is.
hang on. Eh,
Prime Reserve PSFT 23. Be a hero. Custom maple.
Be
And there's
a hero,
be a
which is
hero.
also a tattoo that is on my arm.
Oh my God. Oh, see that? Yeah. Thank
It
you.
is written on my messenger bag. It is something I say at the end of almost all of my YouTube videos. It's something that I do during presentations. It's just
That's
words that
beautiful.
mean a lot to me. So yeah, my
Beautiful. Does
bat.
that come from a movie or a song? Is there, or you just, those are your words?
Yeah, whatever it means to you is kind of the first part. Like if there was another line on top of this, it would be whatever it means to you, be a hero. Because some people want to bound into dangerous situations and try and
Mm-hmm.
rescue the damsel in distress, and other people are they consider heroism to be being more reserved or
Mm-hmm.
just doing something very quietly and not looking for accolades. And I think that all
Hmm.
of those behaviors are good, and I think that those are the kinds of things that need to be encouraged in people more. I'm not saying to go out there and start breaking up armed robberies. I'm saying whatever it means to you, be a
Yep.
hero.
Be a hero. I like that a lot. I'm trying to think of something that I made, and I'm going to go back in time. Something I created was a show called Senior Moments, the Happy Ones, where I invited my mom to be my co-host. And we had a TV show on Access TV in New York, and we did it from the time she was 83 until the time a couple weeks after she passed away at 100 years, 1 month, and 15 days. And we did 257 shows together, and we invited one or two or three guests each time we did. I think twice a month. These were recorded, not live, in a studio on Long Island, and 26 minutes to fit a 30-minute time slot. And my mother would make up a name for herself. I would say, I'm Bonnie D, the junior senior. And she'd say, instead of I'm Ruth, she would say, it was Ruth, but instead of Betty, her middle name, I'm Ruth Bettina, or Ruth Babette. And I'd say, who's that? And she said, that's who I want to be today. And she had a cutting sense of humor. And I never knew who she wanted to be. But thinking back, that's something I wish she passed away 7 years ago, last month, 2 months ago. And it's just something that I created, that I made. And I started the show, Mark, because I had a friend who was trying to get elected to a local office. His name was Bob, and he couldn't get elected to the Park District Commissioner office. And I decided, as friends, why didn't I run a political campaign for him locally, just where we were living on Long Island? And then one day I said, I have a great idea. Let's get you out in front of more seniors. I already had a couple TV shows. Let's start one called Senior Moments, and you'll be my first featured guest. And he was, and he won. I took over his campaign as well, but he won his seat, and he did it for many, many. He was a former chief of the fire department too. Great guy. And then one day I was driving home from somewhere, and I'm in the car, and a thought came to me, and I stopped at a red light, and I just started to cry. So I pulled over, and cell phones were kind of early in those days. I won't tell you exactly what year. I called my mom and I said, I have this show called Senior Moments. I think I created it for you. Would you like to be my co-host? And without hesitation, she said, I'm in. That's it. And
Right
she
on.
came and joined the show. So I don't know what made me think of that, but it's something that I built, I made, I created,
Hmm.
and we named it Senior Moments, a Happy One. I was the junior and she was the senior, and people just loved the show. They absolutely loved it. And people would stop me in supermarkets, they'd stop me on the street, they'd stop me wherever I went and said, oh, how's your mom? I said, excuse me, do you know her? No, we saw you on TV and we love it. You're the only mother or daughter we know who actually like each other anymore. So we love the way you talk to each other and the guests you have. Would you please tell Ruth we're thinking of her? And so I'd call up, I say, Mom, you're famous. And she'd say, what? I'd say, people ask how you are. I go into a store and people say, how's your mom? It was the most amazing thing. No matter where I was, everybody fell in love with my mom. So
Nice.
that was
That's
something.
great.
Yeah, I don't know what you reminded me of that reminded me of that. So let's move on to our last question before we do our say what story. So, Mark, I just got a phone call. Oh my God, it's Stephen King. It's Robert Zemeckis. It's James Cameron. It's oh my goodness, it's all of the famous directors. Oprah Winfrey, it's Shonda Rhimes, it's oh my God, I can't even think of how many people it is. And they all want to know, they want to make a movie or a TV show about your life. And they want you to pick which director. They're all fighting over you. I know you're only 45, but this will be part of your memory book for your family and friends. So they want to know, do you want it to be a movie? Do you want it to be a TV special? Do you want it to be a limited edition 6 or 8 episode? What genre? Who do you want to direct it? What's the title? And who's going to play you? No, you cannot play yourself in this. This is not not a
That's
biopic.
okay. That's okay.
So, what do you think? Who are you interested in?
The first person that comes to mind is Tim Burton is going to direct this.
Okay, I should have known. Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim Burton is going to direct it. It's going to be a movie. And as for who plays me, an excellent question. I'm probably going to have to go with Robert Pattinson,
Oh,
I think.
nice.
Yeah. But I don't want
Nice.
him to play normal. I want him to play very weird.
Why would he
I,
play normal for you? Why would he do that?
well, I've seen him play normal, but
Okay.
I don't want Twilight Robert Pattinson. I
Okay.
want like Bong Joon who directed Robert Pattinson. I want the Lighthouse Robert Pattinson. I
Okay.
want
All right.
that's kind of who I would go to.
What's
Admittedly,
the
Tim Burton kind of did something along those lines
okay?
uh,
Spielberg is
with
too mainstream for you and too much.
Spielberg's fantastic, but and I'm sure that he would have the skills to bring to life the vision that I have in my head. But
Mm-hmm.
if you put a gun to my head, I would have to say Tim Burton is probably my favorite director.
Okay.
And it's
What are
either
we
him
gonna
or
call?
Edgar Wright.
What are we gonna call the movie? What do you want it to be called?
Stories of a Ghost.
That was the last
Stories
line
of a
in the
Ghost.
bio you sent me. You said, "I am a ghost."
I am a
That was in your
ghost.
bio.
I,
Okay.
what I mean by that is it very much kind of stems from what I mentioned about high school, where I was,
Mm-hmm.
which is also, by the way, a line that I stole from Gil Grissom on
Mm-hmm.
CSI,
Oh, I
where
love Gil
so
Grissom.
everybody loves. Oh, absolutely, he's
Oh, did I have
fantastic.
a crush on him?
So
Didn't
at
he?
one point he's asked who he was in high school. Was he popular or whatever? And he said, I was a ghost. And then he briefly describes it. And I'm like, I've never heard my high school experience defined so well, so simply. And then I started to think about it. And like, I was a ghost as well. And that's kind of what I have been like. If you see a ghost, you will remember a ghost, but a ghost doesn't necessarily affect your life in any way. I'm not going to change anybody's life in any
Mhm.
radical way. You'll see me, you will remember me, and then I will pass by and I will fade away. And Stories of a Ghost is the I think that it kind of sums things up pretty well. I think it's the kind of title that Tim Burton would be able to direct properly, and
Interesting.
that Robert Pattinson could act out.
Interesting. Anybody else you would have in the movie? And would it be a thriller? Would it be sci-fi? Would it be, it won't be a musical comedy, I don't think. Would it be time travel? What
It
would you
could be a
like?
musical. It could be a musical comedy.
Oh,
I would love to liken it, and again, like he's already kind of done one like this, but what I would I guess it would be still kind of modern fantasy. I love the
mm-hmm.
movie Big Fish and the way that Big Fish kind of tells that story of somebody's life through all these fantastical elements.
Mm-hmm.
And I would very much love it to be the same way. The when Ben Stiller did The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, it was very much kind of
Mm-hmm.
similar to that as well. So yeah, modern fantasy, urban fantasy is the first thing that I would think of. Something that could bring to life the vision that I have for my creativity and the way I kind of see life while also being grounded in the here and the now.
Would you write the screenplay or would you let somebody else do it? I've
I
never asked
would
that question. I've never asked that question.
I would write the biography that it would be based on, and then I'll let somebody more talented than me at screenplay writing write the screenplay. I've only written like 2 screenplays in my life, and although I'm proud of them, I don't necessarily think that they're the cat's pajamas. So I would write the basis of it, and then let somebody else take it and put the words in my mouth.
Laissez-faire, would you step back or would you want to approve every comma and semicolon?
No, no, I understand that it's a creative process, especially if we're going to be
Okay.
talking about a movie.
Okay.
And I know that there's like biopics and those kinds of things that are out
Mm-hmm.
there that in no way loan themselves to anything resembling
Yep.
reality of what actually happened. And in some cases, that's fine. In some
Yep.
cases, that I love that. The the extreme of that is the weird the Al Yankovic story that came out a couple of years ago with Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al. If you haven't seen it, and to those out there who haven't seen it, it is the most out there, outlandish, quote unquote biopic, and it's only like 5% factual, but it is still somewhat factual. Like it still kind of
Okay.
follows
Supposed to
and
be.
supposed to be, but
Okay.
it's just so completely over the top that I'm like, yeah, I could kind of go for that. But then I also
Cool.
think of something like uh, Bohemian Rhapsody,
Yep.
that I love Freddie Mercury, I love Queen, I love the story, I love the music. I hate the fact that that biography had absolutely no real basis in reality. Great
Hmm.
performances, great music, not true. Just it's
Okay.
not true.
Thank you. Mine would be a musical comedy. It would be not so much on the romance side as a breezy story about a girl who decided to be a redhead at some point, who did stand up and likes to talk and talks to interesting people. I don't think it wouldn't be a biopic, and all the redheads I would like the most are no longer alive, so it would have to be Reba McEntire or somebody like that who could, or Bonnie Raitt, somebody, oh, she's mostly red, who could sing and maybe play a little guitar. It would have dancers in it and singers in it, and an homage to Donna Summer, and it would be basically based on the list of hits that I read to you from Donna Summer. That would be the script outline would be those songs. So it could be me and Donna, which would be, or Donna and me could be interesting. So it'd be a musical comedy, romance, zippy, almost like that girl, I think, with Marlo Thomas, and she threw her hat up into the air at the beginning of That Girl. If you,
Mm.
I don't know if you remember, you're probably not even born yet. Anyway, yeah, so it would be something zippy like that. And I would probably want Shonda Rhimes to write the screenplay because she writes a lot of dialogue, but very fast. Everybody talks very fast. And if you blink and if you miss yourself and you go out of the room and you do something or you
Mhm.
turn your head, you're going to miss 10 different things because I love Scandal and I loved How to Get Away with Murder. I think she did that one too, maybe not. And I just love everything she does because everybody talks so fast and you just have to pay attention. And it's very engaging and very engrossing. And I think don't talk quite that fast. But I think if Shonda would sign on to do my screenplay, I'd be very honored. So there you go. Okay, that's me.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
That'd be great.
let's go to the stories. I do have sharing open if you wanted to. I don't think you do for any of your so why don't you do one and then I'll do one. Let's go back and forth. I've got
Mhm.
three and you've got three. So what's your first say what? What's your first
Say
say what,
what?
sir?
So it leads with the headline in quotes, Pokemon saved my life. And it's the story this is something that I saw, it popped up on Reddit, and then I read another article about it someplace else. So obviously, like, Pokemon collecting right now is really, really popular, and people are going through like massive lineups at Costco in order to get their hands on things. So there was someone who was asleep in bed, and uh, he heard a number of gunshots outside of his house. He lives in a rural area, and he is not unfamiliar with this sound because usually like neighbors are trying to fire, like, to get coyotes out of there or whatnot. And so he was lying in bed, heard these gunshots outside in the middle of the night, and then he heard something fall down in his closet. So he opens up his closet, and it turns out that his neighbors had shot in the direction of his house, and it went through his wall at the same level of where he was sleeping, of where his bed is. However, the bullet was stopped by one of the brand new collector's tins of Pokemon, and there's some loose pictures of Pokemon with cards with the bullet hole through them. And he's saying he didn't even realize at first that he got hit, and then he checked and he saw the bullet lodged inside in one of the booster packs that was in there. And if it wasn't for the fact that it had struck that, it would have come right back through the door and possibly had hit him. So, hence, Pokemon saved his life. So, being a nerd and being a collector and having these things quite possibly would have saved this person's life. And I think that that's a valuable lesson.
I think it certainly is. I'll have to see what's in my closet or blocking me from the back door of my deck, which goes right to my bedroom, which always makes me very nervous. Okay, thank you very much. Let me do a screen share here. I have one that I think you will like. Let's do this. Okay, this is Miami researchers are testing a textured seawall designed to hold back water and create a home for marine organisms. Look at this gorgeous thing. Can you see it, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely, I can.
Isn't that something? Morningside Park, a beloved neighborhood park in Miami with sweeping views of Biscayne Bay, will soon pilot an innovative approach to coastal resilience. This is a 3D printed, that's why I like this. Talking about
Hmm.
nerds and geeks, 3D printed modular system designed to support marine life and reduce wave impact along the seawalls. It'll be installed there in spring. We're in spring 2025 now, and it's called BioCap, Biodiversity Improvement by Optimizing Coastal Adaptation and Performance. Isn't that an interesting name? Architects and marine biologists at FIU, Florida International University, created these textured prototype tiles to help cities adapt to rising sea levels while restoring ecological balance, and it's partly funded by the NSF. These have served as a primary defense against coastal erosion and storm surges, and the concrete will go from 6 to 10 feet high, built along shorelines to block waves. Seawalls disrupt natural shoreline dynamics and could wipe out the complex habitat of marine life. So I just thought that was a gorgeous picture. Can you imagine
Hmm.
that? And it's,
Yeah, it's brilliant.
yeah, absolutely. I thought that was fun. So that's my first one. So why don't you share your second one?
I would love to. So my second one comes from my love of sports. As much as I am a nerd for nerdy things, I am also a massive sports fan. And I was so engaged in this because I thought it was so original. So the NHL playoffs are going on right now, and this one is that the Kings are serenaded by another national anthem by a harmonica chorus from the Koreatown Senior Citizens Center. There's a lot to digest in that particular headline, but the gist of it is that the Los Angeles Kings in the series that they were just playing against the Edmonton Oilers, when they started the series at home, the very first uh, national anthem performer that they brought in was the harmonica class from the Koreatown Senior and Community Center,
Mm,
and these were all these beautiful, cute little older Korean ladies who came in and they set the stage for them and they had the spotlights on them and they performed a harmonica rendition of the Star Spangled Banner, and it was fantastic, and the crowd absolutely lost it. They thought it was the best thing ever. And of course, the Los Angeles Kings ended up going on to win game number one. So you you dance with the one who brought you. So they
mhm,
had the ladies come back for game number two in the series because the crowd wanted them and the team wanted them. So the main part of the story is that they were brought back to perform game number two 2 nights later. This time they got the full royal treatment. They rolled up in all custom Kings jerseys, and they were brought in limousines, and they're just like fancy luxury SUVs, and then they brought them out. And again, like the going back to the kind of pomp and pageantry that I love so much
mhm.
about like things like professional wrestling, and they come in and they people see them coming in through these vehicles, and as soon as they're announced that they're going to be doing the anthem again, the crowd pops, and it went absolutely crazy, and it was just so nice, like thinking about these ladies who were probably just brought in because like, oh, this is just going to be like a fun little thing, and now they're
Mhm.
absolute rock stars in the city of Los Angeles, and
I
that thought
love
just makes me smile.
harmonicas. That is so cool. So absolutely cool. Let me share my second one. This is about a lady as well. Let me go to screen sharing. Here we go. Okay. We have a grandma who is 82 years old, who is India's sword wielding grandma. Her name is Meenakshi Raghavan. She teaches the ancient Indian martial art of Kalaripayattu, and she has no plans to retire. She is known as Meenakshi Amma, mother in the language in the town where she lives. The name of this martial art is Kalari, it means battleground, and Payatu means fight. It's originated, Mark, about 3,000 years ago in the southern state of Kerala, and is regarded as India's oldest martial art, combining combat and fighting. It instills discipline, which a lot of these martial arts do, builds strength, and develops self-defense skills. She performs in cities. She runs her own school, which her husband founded in 1950. I teach 50 students a day. This is an 82-year-old woman. I teach 50 students a day. My children were trained by me and my husband from the age of 6. And here's a picture of her performing. Take a look at this. Is that something?
It's fantastic. I
Isn't
love
that?
it.
Kung Fu is believed to have adapted principles like breathing techniques and Marma Shastra from this particular one we're talking about here. Legend has it that 6th century Indian Buddhist monk Bodhidharma introduced these techniques to the monks, and she first stepped into this in the red earth arena. You can see the red here, 75 years ago when she was 7 years old, and she was a dancer. Her guru approached her father and said, "Why does it at 7, Mark? Why doesn't she learn this martial art? The art form requires you to be flexible." Her guru was 15 years old and had his own school because nobody would allow him into theirs because of his low social caste. Is that something?
I love it. I
Isn't that
absolutely love
something?
it. And and,
Classes from
and
5 in the morning till noon. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, coming from a martial arts background when I was younger, I love stories like this because the thing with my martial arts was that I was fairly successful with it in competitive martial arts, and I never let my head get too big over it because the martial art that I practiced, they would have masters that would go around and help at different schools. And there was an older gentleman, an older Korean gentleman who was late 80s, early 90s. I'm not sure his exact age. And he would come in and he would humble me and he would humble all of the black belt class and the instructors and the head teacher at the school. Like the dedication and the discipline to put yourself through that and what he had learned, like I will never possess that in probably anything. So I loved hearing stories like this of people who are octogenarians who are still going for it, still being active like this, and
Keeps her young.
just I'm 100% certain that just about anybody else who practices that martial art would get wrecked by her, just absolutely wrecked.
I think we
And I
know
love
that.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. She's a martial arts nerd, right? She knows
Yes.
all the
Yes.
details. She focuses. She's definitely okay. So let's do your next story.
Yeah. So I have an affinity for the country of Japan and Japanese culture. I have Japanese tattoos on my arm, and I love this one because it's also hilarious and it talks about something I very much want to do in my life, and that is climbing Mount Fuji.
Mm.
And the headline is, "A man airlifted from Japan's Mount Fuji returns to the slope days later and is rescued again." So the story is of a climber who was airlifted with altitude sickness from the near the peak of Japan's Mount Fuji. So he didn't even make it to the top. And that was last week. And then he returned to the slope and was rescued for a second time 4 days later. So I appreciate his never give up, never think things through kind of attitude here. The climber, who is a 27-year-old Chinese student living in Japan, made an emergency call and was airlifted after developing symptoms of altitude sickness, something I
Mm.
personally have suffered from a few times.
Mm.
And after some of his equipment was damaged and he couldn't continue to climb on. Saturday, he returned to the Fujinomiya Trail, which goes about 3,000 meters or 10,000 feet above sea level, and ended up passing out and needed to be rescued by other people again. And uh, the kind of key points is that at this point, the Fuji trails are not open. They don't open until July, and then they go through until September, but you can climb it off season if you want to. And of course, the Japanese people are generally very reserved and they will keep their opinions to themselves. But this is an article that I found very interesting because a lot of people in Japan are calling for this gentleman to at least have to pay for the second rescue because rescues from Mount Fuji are completely free. So just the I'm going to try and climb Mount Fuji. Oh, I failed. I'm going to try a few days later, and I failed again. And it makes a note at the bottom of the article. So far, the gentleman has not returned for a third attempt.
Hey, Mark, in a very strange way, this reminds me of a story I heard. I was hosting a comedy workshop, comedy writing workshop on Long Island many, many years ago. And woman, we were talking about experiences that might be interesting for writing comedy about our own experiences. And we were holding this seminar, whatever you call it. It was a group, but way before we were doing online stuff in a community church off of a hill on a road in Manhasset. I think it was Long Island, near where I lived in Great Neck. And the hill went past the church, and it wasn't that steep a hill. but cops used to hide out in the parking lot of the church sometimes. So this woman, Rhonda, I remember, I don't know her last name. I don't even know if I ever met her before or after that. She said one day she got pulled over. She heard the siren. The cop was just before the church and he pulled her into the parking lot and he said, "Okay, I'm giving you a ticket. It was 35 miles an hour and you're doing 55." Okay. So she took the ticket and she smiled. He was nice looking. She was nice looking. Well, the following week, Rhonda was doing 55. Now, going down this hill, it was very easy to do 55, which was, not the local speed limit, but it was easy. So he pulled her over again and he said, "Rhonda, we have to stop meeting this way." And that was one of her jokes she was going to be writing in her comedy routine. I thought that was, Mark,
Mm.
I have retained that story for at least 30 years, and I haven't brought it up. And you just reminded me talking about the guy trying to climb Mount Fuji. Oh, that's funny. I just pulled my mic out of the socket. There we go. I can hear myself again. Interesting. Let me share my last story here. I'm going to do screen share again, and let's do the desktop and share. And here we are. This is about glass making. I thought you would find this interesting, even though it's not about anybody climbing or using swords or anything like that. When did people start making glass? Because we use glass every day, right? In every way. So rather than a single uniform substance, glass is an unusual state of matter that looks like a solid but acts like a liquid. I just thought that was interesting because we don't even think about it. A molten substance is cooled so rapidly that the atoms are unable to organize into a solid's lattice-like crystalline structure and lack the ability to move randomly as in a liquid. Okay, listen to this. Glass is a rigid liquid or amorphous solid. Interesting. You could almost write something
Mhm.
about that. It also occurs naturally, meteorite impacts, lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions. But I wanted to go to the history. And this is, they say it's thousands of years old. Never even thought about it. Ancient glass was made from three primary ingredients: sand, which is silica, an alkali oxide, soda ash or natron, and lime. I didn't even know that. And it's heated to 2,700 degrees Fahrenheit, fused to form glass. Earliest glassmaking was beads, pendants, inlays, casts, and open molds. Archaeologists found glass artifacts produced by the Egyptians and Phoenicians in the second millennium BCE. The first human-made glass may date back to 4 to 5,000 years ago. Interesting? And they
Mhm.
say that the birth of glass making, in part because glass products and raw materials were exchanged along trade routes. This was something that they traded, that they sold. Advances helped pinpoint the origins to ancient Mesopotamia, which is our modern day Iraq. Glass trading between Egypt and Assyria was mentioned in the Amarna letters, cuneiform clay tablets dating back to the 14th century BCE that were excavated. I thought you would enjoy that. So, what do you think?
Mhm.
Next
I love
time
it.
you pick up a glass, you might think, I wonder if they thought about this Coke bottle or something in Mesopotamia in 14th century BCE. I'm sure it's going to spark some thought, Mark.
It is, and it immediately reminds me of a friend of mine from years ago who is a professional glass blower, and the art that goes into it, and he ended up taking it to the next level. He is a glass blower, so there's food trucks, yeah.
Hmm.
He has a glass blowing truck. He and a couple other
What?
glass blowers that I have. So
Where?
it has the kiln here in Calgary, and it travels around southern Alberta. And so it goes and like a stage folds out of the side of it, and they have all the materials necessary there to perform glass blowing while also instructing people on how it works. And yeah, so it's like direct to your home or direct to your venue, direct to your social event glass blowing. And
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
that is, there's not a lot of people in the world who could pull off a profession like that, and I think that it is incredibly original. And
Well, you
I'm
can
sure he
tell them.
probably knows the history of glass
You
blowing.
can tell him you now know the history too, that you met another nerd. There you go. Mark, I'm going to ask you one final question.
Ooh.
Somebody comes up to you, a 12-year-old, I don't know how old your boys are, a 12-year-old boy or a 14-year-old boy or a 9-year-old and says, "Mark W., Mark Watson, I saw you on Bonnie D's Cool Dude show and I want to be a cool dude like you." What would your advice be to them? Be a hero. I love it. I
Well,
walked right into that one, didn't
you
I?
absolutely did. You set the ball and I spiked it.
Very nice.
It's the mantra that I have lived by for a very long time, and I once I get an opportunity to explain it, like I say it enough and I point to my arm enough that I'm sure my kids are sick of it by now. But it's the truth. If you find that within yourself to be a hero, whatever that means to you, you will find the right way forward, and you will find what it means for me at least to be a cool dude.
Beautifully said. Thank you for being my guest. Let me play the music, and I have to tell you, I wrote the lyrics to this song called So You Want to Be, and my good friend, former SAP colleague Serge Hoffman, who's a Parisian, and he's a music composer and a lyricist, and he's singing my words. He composed the music, and he's the vocalist. He has had his songs used by Cirque du Soleil. They've been in movie soundtracks. He designed songs for quartets, for trios, for chamber music groups, and for opera singers as well in concerts. So I was very honored that our friendship led him to want to sing the song and to create the music for it. So let me play this. Stick around and we'll talk for a minute, but we're still streaming. So here we go. And let's dance a little more. Got it? Let me see those moves. Come on, Mark W.
So you wanna be
And shout out to Mickey Mickelson for introducing us.
hanging with the ink set,
Looking real,
I love it.
cool and fine.
casting your faking net.
Casting your net. Here we go.
So you
Drum roll.
wanna be
Bop, 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 bop. There we go. Thank you very much to Mark W. Mark Watson for being my special guest. And a shout out again to Mickey Mickelson from Creative Edge PR in Canada for introducing us several months ago. And Mark, I just knew you'd be perfect for Cool Dude. So let's wave goodbye. Let's wave goodbye to our